How many great stories are tragedies?
I'm Steph.
And I'm Ange.
We're
Nerdazons.
So this fortnight is my choice, and we're doing the 2022 Death on the Nile versus the 1976. So
78, isn't it?
versus the 1978. Again, we're recording in person, so it's really good that I have you next.
Our sync.
Yes, but also it's so hard doing the beginnings because I keep it's weird because I've got you right next to me.
I know, because you're watching. It's already nerve-wracking. When we record this via Skype, we actually get the other person to look away from the camera. And now we're right next to each other. It's just much harder. This is why we never went down the acting. I'm sure there's many other reasons why we didn't choose to act, but
Actually, I'm already down the acting hole.
yes, you're doing really good.
So the 1978, as Hercule Poirot enjoys a luxurious cruise down the Nile, a newlywed heiress is found murdered on board. Can Poirot identify the killer before the ship reaches the end of its journey? And then the 2022 says, while on vacation on the Nile, Hercule Poirot must investigate the murder of a young heiress. Okay. So I watched the new one first, and then I watched the original.
Same.
I was not expecting the husband to be the murderer and his ex.
Okay, so last year, when you first ever mentioned about doing this, you were going to do the book against, I think, the 78. I went ahead and downloaded the book and listened to it. So I already knew how the book ended. I knew who the bad one was. And then I think as a kid, I watched the 78 one, but I didn't really remember too much of it. So I started with the new one because I thought, let's start, fresh, because I hadn't listened to the book for nearly 12 months because it got delayed so many freaking times.
I know. Stupid COVID.
And then, so I watched it and it was actually really interesting so we'll start with the story. Let's start with the story. My biggest point is they changed it slightly.
I liked that they changed it. I really liked it. I was so happy with the change. I liked the fact that it was the son and his mum and was on there as well, and that he was in love with the singer's daughter. With the singer's niece. I really liked that.
Okay, hear me out. This is why I think I prefer the relationships in the first one. The stories are great regardless, but I think the relationships in the first one I liked is because when you watched it, everyone on that boat, as you learn about them, why they're on the boat, randomly, you find out they each have a connection with the Ridgway girl. So be it that, Solomon Otterbon is going through a legal case because of her book, or you find out that she is, shaming someone, like the doctor's reputation. And when you find that out before she even dies, everyone has a reason to hate her.
Yep.
And so to me, as a viewer watching like a murder mystery, it's really hard to figure out, oh my God, who had the most motive. So they did it well in the sense with Jacqueline and the husband, that they made it out, they both had alibi. So you start thinking, oh my God, well, what if it was Maggie Smith? What if it was this? And that's why I liked that they weren't connected, but you found out that there was a connection really. Whereas the other one, they were friends all invited there, so you knew why they were there. It makes you question in the original one, oh, well, if she doesn't like the family, is she deliberately following them? It makes you think in that sort of aspect.
I really like that.
Yeah. Okay. That's the only reason why I really liked that they changed it, and the changes actually in the new one were good, and I really liked it. But
sometimes when they do changes, you're like,
it stuffs
why?
it up. Yeah.
Why?
Which it makes more sense that she invited them.
Yes.
Like that makes sense. But I just think everyone on the boat, you find out why they're there. They have a weird connection to her, and it just makes you start to question it. Because if you think of her uncle Andrew, he deliberately went there to the boat to get her to sign this stuff, and so it makes you question: did all the others do that as well? Like you, as a viewer, start to really get into the mindset of solving the crime. Whereas in the other one, they're all there and they just they weren't all expecting to go on the boat because their trip was meant to go somewhere else, but because they had to get away from Jackie, it changed. So I just think it took some of the element of problem solving for the viewer out. But I did like the change.
Well, yes, because watching the original after watching the remake, you're right. Like like it was a little bit more obvious in the original, but in the remake, it was a little bit more obvious in the remake than it was in the original. And you're right there, but it kind of made it. I mean, with the husband being
Army Hammer.
not just Army Hammer, but
Just while you were mentioning that it was more obvious in the other one, I just had a thought, and this literally just came to my mind, because I knew it was Army Hammer, but I feel like he was in more scenes, but I feel like they've cut a lot of his scenes out, because when you think back to the film, and I only watched it yesterday, I just sat back and thought, he's actually not in it that much.
Yeah.
Like he's in it in the beginning when they're like, just don't worry about her, let's go, he gets shot, and then he kind of fades away a bit, and then you just see him in the end scene. And I just had a thought, I wonder if they've actually removed a lot.
And I mean, I'm not going to talk
We're not going to get into the politics. That's what we keep away.
However,
but I actually think it was good.
Yeah, but however, I just want to talk on one little thing really quickly about Army Hammer and stuff, is the reason why it was delayed for such a long time was COVID, and also because of the Army Hammer scandal. They were up in the air, and that they were like,
do they redo it?
Do they redo it and stuff everybody up, or do they just leave it? And then they found out, look, it's too hard to cut him out. He's in it. And when
they can reduce scenes.
They can reduce scenes, and when you look at the top cast on IMDb, he's not mentioned on the top cast.
Yeah,
So
he didn't even, to be honest, even in the scenes that they kept, because like for a moment there, it took me a while to click, oh yeah, he's in it, because his performance wasn't memorable at all. I know we've kind of jumped here from story to characters.
but we just wanted to mention,
let's just get him
we
done out of the way.
the Army Hammer thing done.
But story, yes. That was my biggest thing about the story, was the relationships. Like, I did enjoy the changes. However, I think as a viewer who wants to solve the crime, the original keeping it similar to the book worked better.
Oh, okay. So it was a lot closer to the book.
The characters and everything were the exact same to the book. So it was, Angela Lansbury was an eccentric.
Because you didn't really see, because Angela Lansbury's character wasn't the same in the 2022.
No, so that was the blues singer, Solomon Audubon. So she was based on, I was reading Sister Rosetta Tharpe or something. So yeah, we'll get into that character change when we start about characters, but just as a viewer, this is my lens on why I'm viewing the story. As a viewer, I think the 78 worked better for a murder mystery than the 2022.
And that's another thing, is that because I did watch the remake first, I kept thinking, why is the ex
Maeve from Sex Education?
Yes.
She
why
was
I know, but like,
we'll talk about that in characters.
Why did she keep showing up? Like, that's one thing that really annoyed me, and that's why I was like, she has to be the murderer, is because she keeps showing up. They wouldn't show her coming up for any other reason than maybe putting her as a suspect. But when she was out on morphine, I was like, oh well, she's out.
Yeah, so that's why, as a viewer watching it, I can see in the original, because they showed more of her coming up, right, where she was turning up
and
at all the different shots.
And that Spacek, that was like,
no, that was Mia Farrow.
Oh, Mia Farrow. No, Cece Spacek was
Jacqueline
the ex.
was Mia Farrow.
No, so I'm talking about the ex. Oh yeah, Jacqueline. Okay, no, that makes sense. Okay.
For story, having Jackie turn up to so many different things, I could see I'd be at breaking point if I kept seeing her turning up on my honeymoon, no matter how much money I paid to get to the next area across the world, especially in, I think, it's set in the 30s or something, and she would turn up, it would drive me insane. And like the thought of, oh my God, she's there, she's always there, why is she always following me? It's a good tactic. And she even said it at the top of the pyramid, and she said, when she's like, oh, it's tacky, and it's like, but it's effective.
Yeah.
And then you could even see it on her face when like Lynette is like, oh yeah, you're right, because you are getting to me. And I think they should have kept that in, whereas they didn't keep as much of her following them. Like, you see her once, and then they get on the boat, and then that's sort of it. And that aspect is gone in the story. So the relationship between Simon and Jacqueline in the second one had a real Bonnie and Clyde feel, like a real ride to the end. Ride or die. That's it. And I think all of that was shown in Emma Mackey. She acted like, the way she actually acted like someone who literally could not live without that other person.
And that's what she says in there as well, is that I can't live without him.
I'll die if I can't live without him.
It's love. I love him no matter what. And it was so much more impactful, or maybe because I did watch the remake first, but so much more impactful when she was giving him a hug and then she shot him through the back. And then it ended up, and I was like, she's going to kill herself. Oh, shit.
I thought that
She
was
did.
so much better than... So in the original, she goes up and she shoots Simon first. But before she shoots him, she's like, I've always had to take care of him. And it just makes it seem like, oh, I've got to take care of him. I now got to kill him because he's stuffed up.
Yeah.
And then she kills herself. And I just think the shock by having it as one bullet, and then the fact that they both just look at each other and then fall in slow motion, the way they shot that was so good. It was incredible. But yeah, Emma Mackey just brought that obsessiveness need for that person. Whereas Jackie, the way she acted, but then again, because they showed more of her, it just seemed like someone who was being petty. Like, like you two both hurt me, so I'm going to be petty and ruin your honeymoon.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. And I just, I liked the ending of the 22 so much more.
Agreed.
And oh my gosh, yes.
Let's move on to Poirot.
Poirot. Okay, so the Poirot from the Murder on the Orient Express isn't the same.
Yes, they changed.
Which I don't know how I feel about this, the Poirot in 76. I didn't really connect with him as much. I know that when we did Murder on the Orient Express, I was like, oh, Kenneth Branagh sucks.
You really poo-pooed that.
I did poo-poo on that one.
And it wasn't as bad as you'd say it was.
I still stick with a poo-poo on that one. However, when I have to say that Kenneth Branagh redeemed himself in this one, I felt way more emotions, and especially because Book was in Murder on the Orient Express.
Yeah.
And you already got to know him and his mother, and you knew that, you know, he was
in love, and
he was in love with the niece, and that it was just, and then when he died, and seeing Kenneth Branagh's eyes just tear up, and him just going, I could have stopped that. I'm so sorry, I failed you. That was just heartbreaking.
Yeah, so I think that brought an element which you see in a lot of detective shows, when the detective is like, when they find that there's a murder in a case, it's like, right, I've got to solve this, I've got to stop other people from getting hurt. But when it's someone they know, it really hits close to home of like, oh my gosh, this person is still killing and they took someone close from me and I didn't do it, I didn't do my job. And I think that really showed that dilemma of a detective. But between the two detectives, so the first one, Peter Ustinov, brought a egotistical, obsessive Poirot, which I feel like in the book he's meant to be like that. He's meant to be, you know, up himself in a way because he's the greatest detective, as they mention that he always mentions his name. And then I feel like that the new one, Kenneth Branagh, brings this element
he kind of humanizes him.
Yeah, so like, you know, he's this really great detective, but hey, kind of like Monk, the TV show, hey, you're really good at these attention to details, but you know that there might be a slight OCD to it. Like when he put all the plates down, he's like, I can't have 7, I need to get rid of one, it needs to be 6. Or within the first one, when he has his 2 eggs and they've got to be the right size. And it's like, you bring that element of, hey, he also has his quirks as well, and it makes you, humanize him. You said it right.
But it also is fascinating because you are obsessed with crime dramas, and, you know, I'm not as much. Whereas, you know, you kind of, as you watch them, you kind of pick up on things, and I feel like this would have been easier for you to figure out who it was because you have watched a lot of crime dramas and things like that.
I feel like for this, it was, I listened to the book and it did sort of blow my mind a bit. I didn't think of 2. Like whenever there's like an episode where there's always double, I never think of it. It always gets me, like whenever you find out, oh, they actually had an identical twin brother or something. And it always gets me every time. And I always forget to think of that option. But I had listened to the book a while ago because we were going to do this episode a long time ago. So I already knew how this story went. And yeah, like I think as someone who has obviously watched and seen it all, I think the first one hit it better than what the second one did. And like the little things of, for example, the other one did have the paint. I didn't even think of the paint, but when he's like, you painted him in green, it's because my paint went missing. But in the other one, it had the nail polish bottle. Yeah. But I liked that he tried to put it back, which is something that you would be like, why would you put an empty bottle back then? But yeah, it's just little things like that I like.
I have to say that with the Poirots, 2022 definitely wins. I just could not connect with this Poirot. No matter how much I tried, tried. I just could not connect with the 76, and I did not care for you at all.
I feel like though for the 78 one, I feel like he wasn't. I know it's like his namesake, like it's his series, his book from the Christie book, but I feel like he kind of wasn't the show of it. The actual story and all the people on the boat were, and that really showed, like all the suspects showed more than what he did, like trying to solve the case.
And also, you know, one thing that I was like, what, was when the singer had her hat and then she had a gun under the hat. I was like, maybe you're a suspect. What's going on?
I really liked the diversity that they added, and then and I liked that they added the LGBTQI plus aspect as well. I didn't, because I'd seen the original and because there were changes. The new one actually got me a bit because I wasn't expecting, because Bowers was a cow in the first one, and I loved that about Maggie Smith. Like she was like, my family's lost my money and I have to listen to you, you old bag, get in the room. Like, and she just didn't care, and I'm like, I love this. You remind me so much of your character in The Secret Garden.
But then, you know, when
and she's like, I'm so glad you haven't got long to live.
that was so good. But then when French and Saunders come in, and then she's like, no, I don't need any help. No, thank you.
But it's okay if it's me doing it. Yeah. And I really like that he figured it out based on how the bed was made. And I'm like, I didn't even think that that's what it was, because when you saw them in there, and like it's like no one really shut their Venetians.
No.
And you can see right through, and she was just reading a book, so I didn't think anything of it because I knew the characters. And then to add that element, I thought, I can't believe you had to hide that.
I know.
You know?
It was beautiful.
And it was beautiful. And I really liked the addition of the singer. It just added some beautiful music into the series, like into the movie. They did it perfectly. And I like as well with the cousin, sorry.
No, that's okay. No, that's okay.
I like the diversity aspect of the cousin when he had a gun and he's like, he was talking to Otterborn and he's like, come on, what do you think they're going to think with a black man with a gun?
Yeah.
You know? And it's just like, it just really hits, but it was done subtly.
Okay, before, like, we'll move on to the side characters, but I just wanted to move on to Lynette. Gal Gadot is stunning and she is so beautiful, but I did not feel the chemistry between those two at all in the 2022.
You mean her husband or her friend?
Her husband, between her.
I didn't feel the connection as well. Like in the other one, the way they looked at each other and all of that, I was just like, oh, okay. But she played the socialite well.
So one scene that I was like, is that when they're on the pyramid, I guess.
In the original?
Yeah, and that, you know, the pyramid, they put the blocks and they tried to kill them then.
They're on a different historical site.
Sorry, I'm being ignorant and naive. But then when they're up there in the 2022 and he's like groping her and just, I was like, that's really uncomfortable.
It's too much PDA.
It's way too much PDA.
Like even before they went up there and like he full on had her against the wall and then was like, come on, let's go up. And then she like groped him and turned him around. And I was just like, wow, okay, just go back to the boat, man.
Yeah.
You got a bedroom there.
And when they were introduced even as the newlyweds, I was so much invested in Lynette and Simon in the original. I felt, oh, maybe they are in love. And maybe
I feel like they used typical romance tropes though in the original, and it was bloody horses riding across the sands of Egypt on our horses, you know, and in the white shirts. And they really romanticized their relationship to make you think, oh, okay, maybe it is real after 6 weeks.
Yeah, absolutely, you know, 24 hours, why not? And whereas in the remake, I just felt like he was using her for the money straight away.
It was so obvious.
It was obvious.
Like, that's why I feel, because she actually played the socialite really well. And the way she looked at him, she genuinely looked like
she was in love with him.
But his performance, I don't know if maybe because in the midst of what he was going through, he just didn't perform well. But I also have heard he's not a very good actor. People across Hollywood don't think that, unlike you who believed it at one point.
At one point. Now, going through other movies, I'm like, he's not.
That's why I just feel like that's why I think they cut a lot. I feel like he had a lot more screen time because the performance I saw was choppy, it was flat, and it was memorable. And yeah, he just didn't come across of like, this is my wife sort of thing.
He really
Even
didn't.
when it was Jackie, okay, the dancing with Emma and him at the beginning was more believable in any other part. And when she shot him, that was the most believable acting throughout the entire thing that I saw of them. And it was all her carrying his performance.
100%. I agree. But with the Lynette's, I'm going to say that Gal Gadot won that one.
I feel like though the original, I think her name is Lisa, Lois Child. So I feel like she brought an boss-like element to her, which, you know, her dad was this wealthy man. She took over the business at a young age. She had to protect her fortune. And she had that vibe about her of like, you're not going to swindle me.
And that's right. So when the lawyer is like, just sign it. And she's like, no, I've got to read it. I always read it.
Even when they tell you the story of Louise, when they tell you the story and she's like, oh, I had to intervene with this. Of course I checked this. And of course I did that. And it's like, you're a diligent person, you know, which makes you question, why would you fall for this guy in 6 weeks? Like if you're so diligent in checking your maid's like fiance, most people would have just given what you promised and let her go. She makes that decision, that's on her own, you know.
That's right.
So showing that she was that diligent, I liked that business ethic of her, and I liked that she cracked. But Gal Gadot cracked too in a different way, in more of a stressed way, whereas she just got angry. Like, why is she following me?
Because Louise didn't sign it. She didn't sign those papers.
No, she didn't.
But Gal Gadot did sign them. She, at the end, she's like, yeah, I'll just sign them. And I was like...
They both took it.
Did they?
Yeah, they both took it. Okay. It was intervened.
But the other thing is that about the maids, oh my gosh, see, I was not expecting Lynette not to pay her maid. You know, come on.
So I think she was paying her maid. What it was she promised a dowry to her maid if she worked X amount of time, which she did.
Yeah.
And I get it. She's trying to save her from running off with someone who's already married. It's obviously a scam this guy is putting her through, but she was adamant to go. And I think it's just horrible to take her to where he lives and still refuse to give it to her. Whereas in the other one, I think it was much better in the new one where because as if you were the maid, to me, if I found out that, you know, say you wanted to marry me, but then my boss came over and said, Steph, here's 20,000, take it or leave it. And then you say, right, I'll take it. I'll never come and see you again. Yep. To me, that'll be like, you're not worth it. And I feel like with Rose Leslie, she had that look on her face where she's like, well, he left me, didn't he? And it's like, it shows his true colors that it was the money. And I feel like that really added to her character. Whereas this, it was like, just give me the money, just give me the money, just give me the money. And there was more depth to the character just by adding that little element of backstory.
But again, I was so sad that they both died.
I know, she's disposable.
But that was, you know, nothing Jon Snow.
I know, it's Rose Leslie.
I didn't know her real name. But I was like, oh my goodness. But yeah, I thought she was really good. But other than the main characters, I felt like again, amazing cast. I was expecting a lot more from French and Saunders. I was, you know, expecting them to have a bit more screen time as well.
I think the problem with them two is because Saunders' character, they kind of merged in the original. Rosalie got with the guy who couldn't stand people who had a lot of money when there were others out there. He kind of merged into Saunders because in the original, Bowers was with the woman who wanted the money. She wanted those pearls from Lynette's neck, you know? So it was kind of a mixture of her character. But yeah, you're right. They didn't have much. And I think one thing about the side characters that they missed that the 78 had, and this is again why I think the 78 story of the relationship worked better, is because they were all so eccentric. Yes. They all had their own quirks. They had short time, like Betty Davis only had a short time, Angela Lansbury only had a short screen time, Maggie Smith, but they still were able to bring such an element to their character. But the new one, you know, the trope that French and Saunders was they were a couple in hiding, you know, and then the Otterborns was like they had their own little relation. It was all relationship based, and I feel like the eccentricness of these 1920 rich socialites was gone.
And it's like I said before, even adding Russell Brand, you know, I was expecting him to have a lot more, but I was like, oh, that's it, you're the doctor, and somebody stole your scalpel. Oh.
Yeah, like even in the original, in the 78, the doctor was eccentric because he was obviously working on like random Botox treatments that didn't work, you know, and like there was just, they had something unique about each of them, and it lacked in the 2022. And the only reason
why the doctor was on the boat in the 22 is because he was
engaged.
Love. Yeah, and
they were previously engaged.
Yeah, and
because they grew up together. that was it.
Yeah, but going on to like the scenery and stuff, oh my gosh, 22 blew it out.
22 was all done by CGI.
Oh, was
I
it?
Googled it before I got here this morning, and I'm like, because I started questioning, thinking, was it done on set? It was all done there were a few shots done, I feel like I read Morocco, but the 78 one, actually, they spent 6 weeks on location in Egypt, and they filmed in Egypt.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So I have to say, for location, the 78 one does win.
Wow, because I mean, it was very realistic in the 22.
It did look realistic, but it's the same because in The Murder on the Orient Express, that was something you didn't like.
Yes.
Or no, I think it was something you did like and you thought it was the only redeeming feature was the CGI.
Yes.
But you actually thought this was real, this one.
Yeah.
So they've improved. But
They
the
have.
78 one was done on location.
And one of the things that, I keep saying one other thing, another thing that I do like about the 22 is the tiny little details of the crocodile coming out and the birds, and then the crocodile eating the bird. And then, it's a split little second thing.
Even like the bird flying through the trenches, I thought was really good.
And then also, when they go down the water and they find the gun and stuff.
Yeah,
and then
when they were like
you
with
see
the
like
anchor.
all these like
Fishes
creatures.
eating other
I was
fishes.
like, oh, that's
Yeah.
really cool. I like that little element there.
Yeah. The CGI was incredible for 2022 for sure. But I mean, the fact that they actually filmed on location in 78 was cool.
Yeah, but I feel like maybe it is a 78 thing, but it felt like it was like dusty and dull to me.
Grainy.
Yeah.
I think we talked about in one of the Westerns, I think it was the diaper lenses they used then.
Yeah.
And the fact that they were on location, they would have had just natural dust and debris in the air anyway.
I guess so.
Which I think it's cool. It adds to that mystery vibe of murder in Egypt,
Yeah, but scenery-wise, I mean, even though you told me it's CGI, I'm still going to go with 22.
Okay.
Even the costumes.
The costumes
22,
were beautiful.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I actually have a note here about the costumes.
I still think the best dress was that red dress on Emma Mackey. And when she came up, I was just like, oh my God, you look like a goddess. And because she had that look in her eyes of like, yeah, I'm going to crash your party. What of it?
Yeah.
And I was just like, sizzling.
Well, one of my notes is that I put here is Betty Davis boarding the boat with that black veil. I'm dead. Yeah. I was like, okay. It was just that.
Betty Davis was so, like, their character dynamic was so interesting. It's like she allowed Bowers to talk to her, but she also knew ways to piss Bowers off, and she deliberately pissed her off. And it's like, I'm doing this just to get the reaction out of you.
And another note that I wrote was when Simon, this is the 78, when Simon was shot, the doctor didn't even wear gloves or give him any anesthetic. Also, why wasn't Jacqueline? Oh. And then, I just thought that was hilarious that the doctor's like, this is going to hurt. I'm going to pull the bullet out, not give you any anesthetic, not give you any painkillers at all.
Well, didn't they say in the 78 one when she's like, does it hurt? And he's like, well, it'll be like this until I get to port and they can pull the bullet out.
Yeah.
So he didn't even take the bullet out. Well, because I guess you really, without anesthetic, all he could give him was morphine because he said the two of them had morphine. That's why that was their alibis. So I guess you really couldn't dig it out without the proper stuff.
No, but yeah, I just thought that was really funny. But the costumes in like the remake were utterly stunning.
They were beautiful.
They were so beautiful, and everything everybody wore, I was just like, chef's kiss. Whereas,
but I do feel though, like for example, Solomon Audubon and Van Schuyler in the original, they had that elitism look with their clothing. They were over the top. They had that fancy, drape, that shawl that went over them. They had all those fancy colors. Whereas in the other one, it did seem very monotone with the colors, like the color schemes that they had. Like Saunders was in nothing but like gray.
Yeah.
And then Audubon was in some really good colors, but again, it was monotone throughout. Like they didn't have all the different, like a colored shawl with a black shirt and this.
no,
and I liked that.
I guess
in the
78
original.
was probably more closer to the 20s with what they would wear.
Yeah, but I mean, it did
yeah.
look like lovely in the 2022, and it'd be nice to be able to wear something like that. But it suited the film.
Absolutely. with the side characters, I was just disappointed in the 22 in the side characters, in the fact that I was expecting a lot more from them and more screen time from them or more something. I felt like that
they took the element of suspicion away
very
based
quickly
on the relationships. Like the suspicion was gone so quick. Like that's why I really liked. I know the murder doesn't happen for quite some time in the original, but they built up that suspense of like everyone is a suspect. Whereas in this one, and that's what they said in the murder on the Orient Express, everyone is a suspect. Whereas in the other one, the murder was done quicker, but you didn't have the suspicion of everyone on the boat. Like you had a select few that you could be like, okay, it's safe to say it's not you, or you.
So I'd never watched or done or read or anything to do with Death on the Nile. And because I watched the new one first, obviously I knew going into the next one who the murderer was. But it was a lot harder to guess who they were in the 76. 78.
Yeah.
It was a lot harder to figure out who they were.
Yeah, agreed. I think that's why, like, I like the changes, but at the same time, I think it suffered the story a little bit. Like, so that's why I still think the 78 wins the story.
I don't know, because the 22 was visually like
Beautiful,
stunning,
absolutely.
But I kind of wish that the like visuals were as good in the 78, and then all the if they had the actors from the 76 and everything into the 22, that'd be perfect.
Yeah, they had like good and bad things about each, which makes it really hard to.
And I wasn't
mark.
expecting the murder to happen so far into the movie.
Yeah, in the original, it took quite some time, but that I think is good because it built everyone's character up then. Like, you've got to get to know them all to, like, suspect them.
Yeah. Okay, do you have anything else that you want to say before I move on to the questions? Okay, so how many movie reels do you give 78?
I think because this one stuck more to the storyline, and I probably would watch this one again. I liked it. It's a good background. I think because the audio is not as good in the 70s and 60s, the like with the good, the bad, and the ugly, we mentioned the audio is not as good. It's something that's okay to just put on in the back. So I'd probably give this one I'll give this one a 3.5 because I think it's a really good story, and I think it's one that I'd watch again. I've watched a few times, so I'd give it one a 3.5. The new one, I think I'm going to have to stick with 3.5 for both, actually. And the reason being is the new one was visually beautiful, and some actresses in that some people in that actually just really shone through that film and really made me think, damn, like they were so good. But I don't like the way they changed the relationships, because it kind of changed the story and the way you would guess it as a viewer. Like, as a viewer, you want to guess as well, and the original, by sticking to the story, made it a bit more
randoms on a boat versus the boat being full of just her friends.
Yeah, like it just made it a more enjoyable experience as a viewer. So I'll stick with 3.5 for both.
Now we've discussed it and things, I'm gonna give the 78 a 3 because so many people are in that movie.
I
and
know,
they all,
I can't believe the cast.
They all had their reasons. They all had enough. I thought that they all had enough screen time. They were all
and they
suspects.
brought the characters to life.
But I mean, obviously they had down points of Jackie not being that great and having that final scene. I think that's that's what took it down. Whereas I think
that end scene was so beautiful for the new one.
I think 2022, not to get into all the politics and everything like that, I feel like they should have gotten somebody else to be Simon. I feel like they should have had somebody else to be Simon because they cut out way too much.
Yeah.
They cut out too much, and Simon
he's a very main pivotal character.
Yeah, whereas in this one he was a little bit forgettable.
Yeah.
However, that end scene was so beautiful.
Beautiful.
I'm going to give this one a 3.5.
Yep.
Because I would probably watch it again because it is
I'd
beautiful.
probably watch both, to be honest.
Yeah, I think I'm more inclined to watch the 22 version.
I think I'm more inclined to watch the 78 if it wasn't so hard to find.
I know.
It's actually really difficult, unless I used to have it on VHS.
Well, I got it on BritBox, and oh my gosh, the amount of content that's on.
I know, I'm going to have a look when I get home.
And off topic a little bit, BritBox has all of the Doctor Who's.
Yeah, I know.
Which
that's
I'm
so cool.
like, I'm probably going to keep my subscription now so I can watch all of the Doctor Who's. Okay, big question.
I'm nervous now.
What do you give this? What do you think 78 got on Rotten Tomatoes?
Okay. I feel like the 78 Death on the Nile was a more popular...
Actually, it was 76 the whole time, not 78. So I was right, you were wrong.
right. I was wrong. Okay, I stand corrected. That was on me. I don't know why I kept saying 78. Anyway, okay, the 76. I feel like that was a more popular film than The Murder on the Orient Express. It had an incredible cast and it was shot on location. So I feel like if you were in the 70s, that was a big film. So I'm going to go 83%.
Pretty close. Lower.
Oh, I wanted to go higher for it because I actually thought it was good. Okay, 79.
Oh, you were so close.
Oh no, your face jumped and I was like, are we tie again?
It was 78.
Oh.
And funnily enough, the audience score was also 78%.
Oh, I also didn't get a chance to guess that.
No, but I didn't get it. You're a smart ass.
But that's really cool that it was the same. I think that's good. I think that's a good outcome.
Okay, what do you think 22 got on Rotten Tomatoes?
This one's actually really hard because I feel like there's not enough reviews out because it is still technically at the cinema.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, it's only on Disney Plus now.
Oh, okay, but it's fresh out. So I feel like not a lot of people have gone to see it. We know it was visually beautiful. It was delayed so much, so I feel like the delay is going to ruin its ratings. Like the hype is gone. And the points that I liked, like Emma Mackey, who I thought was incredible, she's not really someone who's credited as one of the main characters. So I feel like it's not going to be as high as I would like it to be. So I think I'm going to stick around what the original got and maybe like 79.
Lower.
Oh.
By a decent amount.
63.
Oh, you were so close. 62%.
Okay, can I try the audience
Yeah, of course
score?
you can.
Okay.
Yes. And it was, I'm going to give you a hint since, you didn't get to guess the other one.
Yeah, but you didn't, no,
Okay,
don't give me a hint because
no,
you didn't
fine.
get it. Let's
Okay,
keep
fine.
it fair.
Yeah.
Okay, I feel like the audience score might actually be a bit better because I feel like the things they added were good and it was done in a nice, subtle way. So I'm going to go higher for the audience score. So what was the tomato? 68? The tomato
sorry.
meter?
Yeah, sorry, I almost looked at 76. It was 62.
So you're telling me the other one was...
That was the tomatoes for 2022.
And so you're telling me what the number you just said, 76, was the audience score?
No, 76 was...
Oh, the 76
Yes,
version.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, so...
I'm getting the difference between the audience score and the Rotten Tomatoes score.
Okay. And I get 2 shots, right?
Yes.
Okay, 78?
Higher.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I'm not going to give you a hint of how much higher.
83.
Oh my God, you were so close again.
Oh, no.
It was 82%.
Damn it. I always default to a division of 3. It's the same with my alarm clock.
Like, should I give you half a point for that?
No.
No. Okay, so shall we move on to
Nerdison's Nerdy Notables.
Not much has happened. We went out to dinner together, but that was fun, and I got to have Korean barbecue for the first time. That was fun.
Don't tell Amber.
She doesn't listen to this podcast anyway.
Okay. Yeah, no, that was really good. And we went to Time Zone, found a new ticket grabbing machine.
And it was so much fun because I was like, oh, I've got only a few dollars left. There's a $500 ticket.
Okay, so let me paint the scene. I was working on that one and I ran out of my budget and I was going to go soon anyway. And then I saw Steph and I'm like, look, just go and try it. You only need a couple of bucks, you'll get it. If I had a couple of bucks, I would have stayed there. And then she got it. And I'm like, damn, I should have just topped my card up. But I didn't want to waste any more money on Time Zone Arcade.
And then you're like, I'm going to go. So I'm like, I'm going to stay for a little bit longer. And I kept winning. There's dropped heaps of the 500s. I think I won it like 3 or 4 times.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Next
Gosh, I
time I'm
love Time
definitely
Zone.
going to that.
I can't wait till Time Zone comes out to Parramatta. It says mid-May.
Oh, nice. I love arcades in general. Like when I went to Japan, like every night we went past an arcade and would just dump money in it. They had this really cool Star Wars game specifically, me and my partner, we hunted down, like we went to this random train station to this one random arcade because it was like you were in a pod. Like you actually had to open a door, shut it, and you were in a pod. It had big like sort of screens and you were just flying the pod and it was really, really good. I loved that game. Turns out I was really good at it. So
that was like one of the mind-blowing things about going to Japan was that
arcades are still a big thing over there.
Yeah,
and
but
I love
like,
that.
I didn't know what I was doing and I'm like, am I touching the screen?
Oh, I didn't play that game.
I was like touching, it was like not the Fruit Ninja, but it was kind of like Fruit Ninja.
Yeah.
And I was like, and then some like 13-year-old was like, we didn't speak the same language. And he's just like pointing and they've got like gloves.
Yeah.
And then he
so
was
they
doing
don't have
it
to like touch.
I guess. But also the fact that they were going like speed
So
of light.
fast. Yeah, I know. There's a few that do it here actually. If you go to the Haymarket one and you watch them, they've got the gloves and everything. And, it's
And then,
like,
you know,
wow.
I ended up getting like 6 points or something, and the little kid turned and like gave me a clap, and I'm like, oh,
That's so adorable. That's cute. Let's see, with me, not much as well. Just trying to watch a lot of stuff. We are recording on the same day as we did last fortnight's episode, so I haven't unfortunately watched much between now and then.
I mean, we did watch the good, the bad, the weird.
Yeah, but we watched and talked about that in the last episode.
I have still been getting into Audible, and we're just gonna keep hounding you until you sponsor us.
Hey, it got to a point that I actually stopped being dodgy with my account and I kept my account.
No
Like
way.
I didn't cancel it anymore. I just kept it. The whole year I've paid legit for my account.
And
Woo for supporting the app.
and when we were talking about audio dramas, there's one that I think you would also like. It's called The Cold Case, a Black Book audio drama. And it's got Aaron Paul and Christian Ritter in it.
Okay, I'll have
And
to check it out for sure.
It's so good. But I've probably mentioned it before.
have?
Oh, yeah, I have? Okay, cool.
But I'll listen again.
One of the other ones that I totally recommend you should get, it's 6 Degrees of Assassination.
Oh yeah, you've told me that about 20 times now.
Mm-hmm.
I will get it. I haven't
I
been
think
listening.
it's part of the free ones as well.
I haven't been listening to Audible much, so I will get back into it. But speaking of Audible, do you want to tell everyone what your episode next fortnight is?
Okay, so I'm doing a book.
Well, next month, so we don't know what order it'll go in.
We'll flip a coin. So next month, I've decided to do a book and a movie. We're doing the Princess Bride book versus the movie. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I finished the book in like 4 hours. It was so good.
It's only a 2-hour book.
Oh, well then it finished it in 2 hours.
Exaggeration much? So Audible gives out badges, and I really tried to get my badge that day. It's like a marathoner, and it means you listen to the book without stopping. And I had all my work to do, and I'm like, right, before lunch, I told my partner, I'm like, don't talk to me. I'm listening to this book. I'm getting my work done. And I didn't get my damn badge, so I'm really upset. Maybe it doesn't count 2 hours as a
No, but
as a
oh my
book.
gosh, I'm so excited to do that one. And what's your
And
choice?
then my choice is going to be Pet Sematary. So excited to finally do a horror. I've been jumping out of my comfort zone a lot, and I need to go back into my comfort zone.
I'm excited to finally do a sci-fi fantasy. But I'm really like genuinely scared about Pet Cemetery. But,
really?
Yeah. I don't know. It's just horror movies. I'm not used to them.
Yeah.
And so I'm a little bit scared going into it. But
You'll be fine.
I just want to ask you really quickly, how many badges do you have?
Not as many as you.
I've got 14.
I just saw them.
I know.
I don't have that many. I don't even think I have half of what you have.
Oh, well, clearly I like listening to Audible.
Yes, you do. But you were listening to it way before me.
I was.
You were.
I was.
So there you go.
So if you want to listen to us, we are on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. You can leave us an email at nerdazons@outlook.com, and you can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Nerdazons.
And we have amazing merch by the Craftcaster, and you can find that at Teespring.
Until then, stay nerdy.